to Rebook, the show where we talk about the men and women slapping meat in the middle of the square circle and the stories they tell in the process. Happy New Year. I'm Golden Boy. You got Matt, you have Jake, and we are joined by the king of the ups and downs, the current Proteus Progress Wrestling Champion. It's Mr. Simon Miller in the house, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Genuinely. Thank you very much for having me, guys. I feel very honored to be here.
Yeah, our first, guest that isn't a part of the Rebook crew, because we had Scan on at the end of the new year. So it's an honor to have you join us here, man. And first things first, what is a Proteus? What is Proteus?
You're the champion of the proteins? What's going on?
I'll take being champions of the proteins. That's all I've got. So, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. I do believe a Proteus can be sort of like bacteria you find in an animal. I mean, that is the definition of the name. But I do believe there is a Roman or a Greek sea deity.
Okay.
It was named Proteus. And I'm going to assume that's what it's named after. So it's just a cool name they found for the belt, right?
Yeah.
But I guess the best way to sell it to people that don't watch Progress Wrestling, and not to put myself over too much, which is exactly what I'm going to do, it's the equivalent of being the Intercontinental Champion in Progress. That's what I tell people.
Okay.
That's what I've told all my lapsed wrestling fan friends. I'm like, I'm the Intercontinental Champion of Progress.
Okay, I like that. Though. That's good to know. That's good to know, because obviously on the website I looked and I was like, oh, there's three different named champions. So it sounded super cool. Yeah, I just thought it was like a really sick concept, this concept of, three different themed champions, right? Now they have a world championship, Progress. Is that how it's considered? I don't know how that works.
Yeah, that's true. So on the men's side, you have the men's world championship, and you have the Atlas Championship, which is basically a big man slapping man meat belt. Yeah, I have to go after that one too, really. And then you have the Proteus title, which is like the IC belt, but also, yes, the magic of the Proteus belt. And I suppose this is where it ties into the sort of the deity mythical stuff, is that he or she who touches said belt gets to determine all the stipulations for their matches. So that's kind of the magic of the title. Yeah. So I am now in control, which seems like a championship advantage to say the least. But yes, I now get to decide all the stipulations for my matches. So I feel very privileged and proud. Yeah.
What is the one stipulation that you want to do?
Well, so I want, reverse battle royal. Are you kidding me?
Reverse battle royal. Wait. What was the reverse battle royal? So everyone starts in the ring and then you just get thrown out?
Outside and you try to get in the ring.
Outside the ring and you have to get in the ring. Dude, I'll let you know, man. I pitch this to Progress at least once every 2 weeks. I'm like, so how about that? And I tell you, I think they would go for it outside of the fact that, you have to book 30 people, and that's really expensive.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only reason they're stopping it. One day I will do a reverse battle royal, even if I have to pay for it myself. I will.
Yeah. Okay. I'm down.
Could you just play Monopoly in the middle of the ring? Like, could you choose that as a stipulation?
Yeah, absolutely. I can do whatever I like. I
like the idea of
game of Go Fish for the title,
as a lot of people would probably traditionally want to see no DQ match, right?
Yeah.
I at least, this is my heel brain. I would add more rules than ever. So it's so easy to get disqualified. You didn't wipe your feet coming back into the ring, or it's disqualified.
Or it's like playing a board game for the first time where you're both looking at the booklet and you're like, wait.
Wait.
So if you're on that spot, then I have to be here. And, there's game pieces involved. You're like, what are we doing?
It's like that episode of Friends when Joey was playing he was going to host the game show, and they had the Wicked Wango card and bamboozled. The game was bamboozled. Yeah. So you got to make the bamboozled stipulation. That's what it's got to be.
I'm writing all these down. Every single one has been written down. So.
Do it. It's all good.
Spelling bee. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of
honestly, we give a lot of stuff. We give a lot of stuff for free on this show, Simon. So trust, we've given Tony Khan so many storylines.
Spelling bee, and if you get it wrong, you get jumped by lumberjacks outside the ring.
I actually am all. Or imagine if it's like reverse battle royale, but then you got to get inside. Then you do rock paper scissors. Then if you win rock paper scissors, then you climb the ladder, but you can still get your ass beat. So there's a guy running around the ring asking someone to play rock paper scissors while people are trying to climb the ladder. there.
Anytime.
I love it.
Yeah.
Guys, TNA has done all of these already.
All these. Well, we should have known. We should have known. Of course, guys, get TNA Plus. Very easy, very simple.
Right.
Damn right. Done.
Always.
Done. All right. Well, first things first. We want to thank everyone for tuning in to Rebook all throughout 2024. You probably noticed, and even at the beginning of the show, cycling through all the graphics. So that big changes coming to Rebooked this year. You'll notice graphics changes and things like that. But also, we're bringing on a buddy of mine who's going to help out with social media stuff, and we're just going to try to do a little bit more in 2025 because we really like growth. Hashtag growth.
We're going to be girthier in 2025, folks.
That's our objective. We want to basically look like
two C's,
two Simons put together. You know what I mean? So that this way we have the 28-inch pythons. But yeah, so basically that's what's going on. And we thank everyone for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, do all that good stuff because we're going to keep on adding new things, and you'll see it throughout the show. But well, enough of that sappy crap. Let's go ahead and move on to some wrestling talk, shall we? Because it's been too long, fellas. First thing that we have to address is WWE just had a sexual love affair with capitalism and left it in the middle of the ring. Fortnite. It's not.
True, yeah.
Front and center.
Okay, I just gotta say, as a guy who commentated the Fortnite World Cup, it is freaking bizarre to see Triple H stand in the middle of the ring and right there, a Fortnite logo. Just as massive as it could possibly be. Simon, what do you think of the new ring design that they have for SmackDown and for Monday Night Raw?
I mean, I like the Smackdown one was nice. That blue mat I thought was good. I'm into branding, so that's fine. I look, in 6 months, we won't even notice the adverts because that's what happens with all of these things. Your eyes just get used to it. But yeah, I mean, after watching wrestling for 25 years, then all of a sudden, especially because we replaced Prime with Fortnite, I was like, what a strange world we're living in. It does look garish, but it's always going to look garish, right? Because you've literally gone from nothing to the occasional centerpiece to now the ring looking like somebody threw up on it with adverts.
Yeah.
I mean, look, as soon as the TKO thing happened, I was fair play to them. They were far more reserved than I thought they were going to be. I thought they would have done this a year ago. I really did. So, but my big thing is always, would I prefer it to go away? Yes. Do I understand how the world works? Yes. Will I totally ignore it in 6 months? Yes. Exactly. That's how my brain works.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, like coming from my background, it's so common, like sponsorships. It's all over the place. It's just a regular thing. What's
coming from any sport.
This is true. This is true.
That is the one that
boxing. Yeah.
I will say. I mean, and Simon, you're right. With the TKO, obviously bringing in things from like UFC, that Monster Energy and Spotify and all this stuff have been on mats and shorts and stuff in MMA for years. So like, I think it is. We've just been so conditioned. Wrestling's been this weird little island of misfit toys in the entertainment world, a big one, but it's still been a weird niche island. And now really, you're getting more mainstream coverage than ever. And so to me, like, while it is weird, and yes, the purest wrestler in me is like the mat plain as day as it always has been. But there is a little part of it is like, it makes us feel legit. Like there is a legitimacy, like a baseball stadium or a soccer stadium or a football stadium that has beer ads all around the entire perimeter. That's part of that business. So it makes it feel like, for the first time in a long time, like part of the sports and entertainment zeitgeist in a real meaty way.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'd rather Fortnite and Snickers ads than ICO Pro and Stacker 2. Like, I would rather that.
Stacker 2. Holy crap! What a deep cut. I haven't heard that in age. I don't even know what Stacker 2 is till this day.
I'm pretty sure it was just
Fedra.
Barely legal meth. Yeah. It was barely legal methamphetamine.
And I was watching TV when that was being advertised to me. Oh man, I tell you, love the United States. What a country.
1-800-COLLECT. They were even a sponsor at one time.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Wow. Damn. Okay. Well, I do agree. And I will say as well, like, I'd rather that than Prime. honestly. So, because I don't really think Prime is a great. I mean, I don't think it's any.
What
it's
liquid
not,
do you think is healthier, Prime or Hulk Hogan's A Real American Beer?
Well, we have to consider which one is closer to water.
There is more water in that beer. It is closer to water. I would give that to my children before I'd give them Prime.
100%. At least I know I'll get some water minerals from Hulk Hogan's real American beer. Yeah, but in any case, so this is and AEW has been doing this for a while, and this isn't anything new. Like sponsorships in the ring, it's been around for a minute now in other sports. We'll see what happens, but I will say though, I don't like the blue mat. That's the only thing I'm just gonna. I feel like it makes everything feel really tight.
Blue.
And congested and blue. Yeah, I just yeah, man. I feel like, like Bluey just got murdered on the floor and just sprayed across.
Well, somehow I'm more okay with that.
Okay. What were you going to say? You absolute.
It doesn't matter. We're going to move on.
Smash the Smurf.
Oh, one way or another. Oh, but okay. Well, the thing is, on that episode of Smackdown where our eyes were blasted, where we got blued, we blued ourselves. We got to experience. Wait a minute, TIFFY time. Little echo there, had to get the reverb. Tiffany Stratton finally freaking cashed in the Money in the Bank briefcase and is now the WWE Women's Champion. Jake, this was a long time coming. Nothing about this is surprising. What is surprising, though, is how when it happened, I was like, yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. Like, get it done. Am I wrong in that assessment?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it felt like we'd kind of been stringing along and teasing that for a long time. So it did feel like the right time. One thing I'm glad that they didn't do is have just Naomi get squashed and then Tiffany cash in. So I'm glad that they kind of still protected Naomi as well. So she's still very much a part of this story too. Because she was screwed out of a championship as well because of all this interference and that sort of thing. So it felt like the end of one chapter, kind of starting another to see what's going to happen here. I can't imagine there's not going to be some sort of triple threat between the three of them in the foreseeable future. Yeah. And I think that'll be a pretty interesting and pretty fun match, I think.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, in the matchup itself, I did feel like, Simon, we've seen Naomi versus Nia a couple times now, but I don't know why I feel that. Maybe I'm wrong. You watch a lot more than I do.
This felt like their best.
But this felt like the best one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they fought a lot, especially in multi-person matches. That's why I feel they had two really good matches, this being one of them, this being the better of the two, I think. But yeah, they've all been butting heads a lot, I suppose, because they were building to this. I would imagine that's where the seeds were planted. And it is really weird because I thought in terms of how cash-ins go, it was a really good one. Yes. It was frantic and it was crazy. And again, we made sure there's about 8 different directions we could go once we were done. But I also had the feeling of, well, we probably could have done it 6 weeks ago. And I think a big reason for that as well is as soon as you introduce the mid-tier titles, US Women's and the US IC, you don't need to worry about the Money in the Bank so much. You just don't, because then it does become more of a trinket than something that we can have as a championship because now we have championships. But either way, execution is everything. I thought this was great. I think Tiffany Stratton is now just a babyface, which makes sense because she gets cheers anyway. And going back to what we just talked about, I also think, should you want to, you could probably turn Naomi heel off all of this because she has been absolutely screwed the last 6 weeks. Yeah. She always ends up in this situation where she gets hit with a briefcase or somebody runs in. And it would be quite interesting. I mean, she could be the person that attacks Jade Cargill. But no, I thought in terms of it should have finished the show was my other criticism. I think this should have been the last thing we saw on SmackDown. But again, people don't, apart from us, I think most people watch wrestling now in bits anyway on social media. So does it really make a difference? No. But no, really good stuff. And I think it was the execution, especially really good.
Yeah. I think that, Matt, was the part that you definitely got to tip the hat for, even though I agree with Simon, should have happened 6 weeks ago. I am glad though that, you know, the way that it went through, and I got to give credit to Nia Jax, because honestly, like this, for a person who was highly criticized for the way she was in the ring and all that, like I've been really impressed with just the overall, you know, scale of the matches she's been able to do. Some good, some okay, but for the most part, I would say this title run did exactly what it needed to do, which was, you know, get the belt on the young hot star. Does Nia Jax fall off of the title picture, Matt, moving forward here?
Sir, I mean, certainly not right away. I mean, there's obvious rematch. That's Wrestling 101. I think, again, Naomi still involved. I think it is primed, but not necessarily. I know you guys hate that word. But the situation is kind of primed.
You made a snicker. Sorry.
To like a triple threat, probably at the Royal Rumble. Yeah. I can see literally this week on SmackDown, a big brouhaha in Nick Aldis's office and all that kind of thing. Make that match for the Rumble, but you could also have a one-on-one rematch, all that stuff. What I do like though is that there's a lot of branching narratives you could go off of this though. With Naomi, heel turn would be very interesting. Obviously Nia getting her strap back or trying to, etc., and or the warpath she may go on if she's ultimately unsuccessful in doing that. So I think there are a lot of those are the good moments when it's just this happens. It's almost like those little mini quantum events of like, what branching pattern is going to happen? Are we going to go off in this direction or this direction? Are we going to work with this person? So I like when those possibilities feel open, and they do in this situation.
Yeah, I definitely think that considering where the WWE Women's Championship was coming out of WrestleMania, right? If you guys remember Bayley, like she had the great match, but unfortunately kind of got a little overshadowed by, like, you know, one of the craziest moments in the history of all of professional wrestling. And then from there, the title run, you know, a couple butting heads with Nia Jax. The title's definitely found its footing now, which I think is something that, you know, we were hoping to see happen a little earlier, but I think now with Tiffany Stratton holding the belt, this is going to lead to a lot of fun things. It's going to be really good. I'm stoked because Tiffy's made a lot of enemies on the road to the top. So I think it's just going to lead to more and more chaos along the way. And we'll see, because clearly you guys are right. There's no world that Naomi is taking a back seat in this situation, which does lead me to wonder what happens with the tag titles as well, with the women's tag titles, because that is another massive question mark. All right, well, you know, of course, we'll cover that for another day, though. We'll get on that for another day. Here's the thing. I actually wanted to kind of pick your guys' brain here real fast and talk about the current state of the stories on SmackDown in total, because I think that right now, Simon, I'm seeing like they're doing a lot of like reshuffling, especially going into the new year. Now it feels like there's a lot of like reshuffling, a lot of sameness. Do you feel like SmackDown has kind of fallen behind narratively, like with the stories and the interest in the stories, and that could potentially change coming into this year? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think I saw a month or so ago, I agreed with you more, just because the tag team scene as well was, I want to call it a mess. It was just a bit drab. There didn't really seem to be any direction, but I think they've changed that recently, probably because they've got this third hour. All of a sudden, you got Pretty Deadly more involved, and obviously DIY were super more involved. We're doing more with the Motor City Machine Guns. The Street Profits are there too, so I think you'll probably throw another team in there as well, should you so want. So I think that's been good. I need to see what they're going to do with it. I think SmackDown has been lucky in the sense they had Cody Rhodes, right? And most of Cody's stories are so interesting and have so many people engaged with it. The rest of the show was almost sort of shaped around what him and Kevin Owens were doing. Yeah. And some of the stuff they've done been great. I mean, we did a promo from Kevin Owens' card. It was like promo of the year. I think when you're doing that kind of level of stuff, you're like, oh, okay, well, we don't need to do much. But no, I certainly think that with this cash-in, again, reshuffle of the women's division on SmackDown, absolutely a bigger focus on the men's tag team division, which I think both on Raw and SmackDown has been one of the disappointments in WWE this year. Really felt like nobody cared. And I was like, oh, we've gone back 5 years. Nobody cares about the tag team division, which always gets me, because because I love it. But no, I think they've addressed that. And again, oddly, they're only doing 3-hour SmackDowns till June. And then it's going back to 2 hours, which is totally strange. But that's okay. We still got a good 6 months.
I think that's because of NBC Universal. I think they probably had a few more months on their agreement and had a few more, WWE had a few more hours that they needed to fulfill. Because I don't know if you noticed, but they're throwing a lot of stuff out there. They got Saturday night main event. They're doing that again. They're also, I think they're doing 4 of those this year.
A lot
so
more.
Yeah. And then obviously NXT going to CW is another big network thing for them as well. So it seems like WWE had to make a lot of concessions for NBC Universal for the Netflix deal. That's how I took it. It looked quite fascinating. Yeah, might be. But and I think that, was partly the other thing I kind of wanted to talk about was the fact that the U.S. Championship as well, right? Like, I feel like you really need a shot in the arm, and it's weird because Shinsuke Nakamura just won it, but like it already feels like they're not sure what to do with it right now. Go with it, Matt.
I do, but Simon kind of made me think about this, and this might be a little bit of hyperbole, and this will make a great short. I'm sure that'll get a lot of people really agreeing with me. No, but like I think there's an opportunity on the table. So obviously with Netflix, Raw, we've seen some of the moves they're going to put a lot of money, a lot of investment. The big draws names are going to be put over there. SmackDown has an opportunity, much like kind of, if anybody remembers that like 2002, 2003 era, it was still SmackDown was like the B show, but that's when Edge and Eddie and Kurt and
they were having fun. Yeah.
And they were like, it wasn't as big as Raw, but the workhorses and everything made a name for themselves in that era of SmackDown. I feel like it could be a similar table set here. We have a lot of really great, that tag team division is a great example. Like it feels chaotic now, but the talent is there. Shinsuke and, Andrade and Carmelo in that US title scene, LA Knight, etc.
Yeah.
And then with Cody and Kevin and Randy anchoring the main scene, the women's US title scene, like you could have like banger like matches and like really, really interesting like workhorse, like mid-card situations and stories going on that might fly under the radar for a little bit. But I think as we go on, people will be like, I know Raw's got like the star power, but holy crap, have you seen what they're doing on SmackDown? I think the table is potentially set for that. Whether they can capitalize on it, we'll see.
This feels like the land of opportunity era, kind of when.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that
when that was going on, and right. But like, and when Heyman was involved in creative or whatever, and like, hey, like let's actually be a little competitive and see what we can come up with and throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. I like the idea of the tag team picture feeling a little crowded because that means people care. That means that that everybody competing wants those titles. And for a while, it was just like you had to be reminded that there even were tag titles because it's like, oh yeah, they have them right now, or they have them right now, and they haven't defended them in 5 months or whatever. And I think we're starting to see more of a resurgence of that tag team, of like good tag team wrestling and some tag team storylines. And so that makes me excited, but I 100% agree with you that like, this really seems like an opportunity. If I were a talent on SmackDown, I'd be like, man, let's run with this and see what we can do. Because you gotta battle with that star power, like you said, on Raw. So like, let's really focus on the in-ring product and the storytelling that we're doing in this character development. And, really Raw can be spectacle. But SmackDown, that's where story lives, and let me really go after that.
You guys talk about what's going on Netflix. Let's go ahead and talk about what's going on Netflix, because WWE made some history, and they debuted Monday Night Raw on Netflix around the world, which I did not know at first. That was a thing that.
Oh, really?
I knew the Netflix deal was a big deal, but I didn't realize that they were distributing simultaneously globally, which That is a big deal because that's never happened before. So, Simon, you got to watch wrestling on Netflix. You didn't have to. I mean, usually it was okay for you though. How would you normally watch it over in the UK?
What did that happen? Like 6 a.m. for you? Like,
what 1 a.m. to 4 a.m.
Oh my God.
Did you watch live?
I pick and choose. Sometimes I wake up at 5 and get it done. More often than not, yeah, you just watch it and cry.
Yeah.
That's why when they said, "Oh, SmackDown's going to be 3 hours," I was like,
My wife was like, "It's too much." She was like, "It's simply too much. How much can grown men watch other grown men and women beat the shit out of each other?" I was like, "You're right, wife."
It's true. She's 100% smart.
Yeah.
I agree with her. Put her in charge, please. So oddly, and this is such a strange situation. So WWE content obviously used to be on Sky years ago. It got bought out by BT Sports, which is just like another station over here. Then BT Sports, and I kid you not, this was the case until this week, was then bought out by, I don't know, whoever owns TNT in America. So you would watch WWE in England on TNT, which obviously in America is the station that airs AEW. So when you try to explain this to people, they just look to you like, "Oh, a stupid sport." I'm like, "It is a stupid sport. You're right. It's really dumb." So, but no, my experience on Netflix was just awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
I mean, so many things. Their app is obviously better than the TNT, again, the UK app, because that's a television station, and the app was always, the secondary project they're working on. Whereas obviously Netflix doesn't matter where you watch it. It's effortless. It's seamless. We don't get commercials. So I saw at one point during the tribal combat match, I just saw Solo Sikoa mouthing off at a fan, and I had a video package. And again, I do want to point out that's the same with AEW. We have AEW Plus over here. We watch it through Triller. And again, when it goes to advert, you get to continue to watch the match. And it really is fun. And I genuinely hope this happens on Netflix. Often you get massive technical issues and you hear things you're not supposed to hear. And because I'm a geek, I love that. I'm like, behind the scenes. But it was, in terms of watching it, it was an effortless experience. And I thought, we mentioned it before we started, the presentation, my gosh, no wrestling company on the planet should even be trying to compete with WWE in that sense anymore. And that is not a disparaging comment to them. It's impossible. All you could do is match it, and you're going to invest so heavily into it. You probably don't have the funds because nobody has WWE funds. So as awesome as I thought it looked, I genuinely thought it looked incredible. I would send it to people that didn't watch wrestling to go, "Hey, maybe this helps you get into it a bit more." Yeah. But I also actually think it opens up an amazing opportunity for quote unquote competitors. Just be the opposite of that. You will be such an awesome, cool alternative, a pro wrestling show, if you want to call it. So I saw some people going, "Oh, it's the death of all these other promotions." I was like, no.
Oh, really?
If I can it's just negative Nancy's. But I was like, if I can tune in and get a more, more gritty presentation or a more old school, pick your word, right? There's so many words. Then wrestling is going to feel, this is awesome. Yeah. So I actually think it helps WWE. It definitely helps wrestling, because I think Netflix is just going to grow the industry entirely. But I think there's definitely positives that we can work within. So I'm super excited about what happens next, because if people are smart, everybody will benefit. I truly, truly believe that.
Yeah, I actually do want to say, like, in regards to the, the scale, right? Like, I freaking loved when AEW did the Hammerstein Ballroom, a few weeks back. I thought that was some of their best TV. I loved it. And I thought it was a spectacle, because I like the Hammerstein. It's such a unique looking venue. Like, and don't get me wrong. Look, I think when you look at images like this and you see the scale upon which, and for those listening, this is when Roman hits Solo, and you can see a shot of basically, well, firstly, that arena. I'm a sucker for a good arena. That arena, I did not know that the lights were fixed onto the seats.
Yeah,
that's cool. That is cool.
LEDs.
That is really cool. I did not know that. So I was like, that makes sense why they chose this venue, because I thought that they gave everyone wristbands, the LED wristbands, because we do those at esports events quite often. But
it looked like we were in the Star Wars Galactic Senate. It was awesome.
It really did. Really did. Overall, I would definitely say, I don't know if there's much else to add. And Simon, I think you kind of nailed it, right? Like, you're right. There is room to grow for everyone involved. This isn't a one size fits all thing. Matt, what do you want to say?
Here's the thing, and to that point, look, Simon's right. I mean, WWE has led this industry for 50 years or whatever, like, and they have the support, they have the finances, they have the partners, all this stuff. And so they're the, whether you think their product sucks because you like New Japan style of wrestling or whatever, but still in the world of media, they're the icebreaker ship.
Yeah.
Right. They're going through the ice. Them being on Netflix, one of the only, I think probably the only weekly live program now that they have. They've done live events, but like a weekly live show, first time ever, making history. That opens the eyes to Tubi and Paramount Plus and Showtime Plus, all these things to go, well, shoot, maybe wrestling, maybe TNA ends up on Paramount Plus. And that's what led to AEW on Max. If you don't think that like WWE going Peacock off of the network didn't lead to AEW and Warner's and Max having a little thing 2 years later, you're crazy. And now this going to Netflix is going to open up, again, streamers big and small to go, hey, maybe wrestling's a viable product, which is good for the business long term. And
also these platforms just want people to stay subscribed month over month. That's all they want. That's all they care about.
That's the
and wrestling fans will stay there. You give them a pay-per-view every single month, you know, like that's why I think eventually AEW needs to get the pay-per-views. I think that, you know, they'll get there eventually. But when those pay-per-views go free on Max, it's going to be even bigger game changer for them, because I know now it's on Max, but it's a reduced cost, right? It's like a $29.99 or something another
like that.
Yeah. You know, but we'll see what happens there. But anyway, let's talk about the show itself, because a lot of things went down. You know, moving past the big opening with Triple H, there was obviously all the typical WWE glazing that happens throughout the show. You know, them talking about how great they are and stuff, and they are great. They are awesome. WWE nails it every time. His production was great, and it was even more so doubly great because of the first matchup, Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa, tribal combat. It was a crazy matchup, and I guess is tribal combat just a matchup where the run-ins happen? Is that just what that is now? Is that
involves the whole tribe?
It involves everyone. Because this was the matchup where it felt like a mini WrestleMania 40 main event. That's what it felt like. Jake, you know, we've been talking about how good Solo has been in this feud, and just how good Solo has been in general. I'm a big fan of his. I definitely think that this was, you know, the best Solo has looked, you know, but also Roman's a fucking star, man.
Roman's that dude.
He's that dude, man.
He is that dude. No, I mean, look, I think I really enjoyed the match. I think the match did exactly what it needed to do. I honestly was a little surprised by the outcome.
Yeah.
I kind of thought, I didn't really think that Roman would get it back. I thought that there would be some sort of shenanigans. When The Rock came out, I was a little like, oh, here we go. Now we're about to start something. And then he just.
Well, let's talk about that real fast, though, Jake. That was weird, right? So it seems like they're just dropping it completely. Everything that happened from 40.
I'm also confused by The Rock thanking Cody Rhodes at the beginning, seemingly out of character.
Yeah,
especially with Hey, just joshing, pal. Remember when I beat the shit out of you and made you bleed on television in the rain on front of your bus, and I just smashed your face into everything I could find? Just kidding, pal. I don't know. That was all like, it was just business. That was a little. I was a little. I don't know. It just I don't, from a storyline perspective, trust The Rock. I just don't. So I'm interested to see where things go with that. But I'll tell you what I think is going to be the most fascinating thing storyline wise. I think Solo really is going to acknowledge Roman.
Oh,
and I think his buddies are not going to be a fan of that. That's kind of the direction. That's kind of the direction that I'm thinking that's going. It's like, no. We didn't join Roman Reigns. We joined. I mean, look, Jacob Fatu. Every morning when he wakes up, the first thing he thinks about is how much he loves Solo Sikoa. Okay? Every single morning. All right. He's eating his Samoan Wheaties. Solo's on the box.
Wheaties.
Every time. Okay. Like, that's not going to go over well with Jacob Fatu.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to go over well with the other two either. So I'm very interested to see how this progresses, because like we were talking about, like the stuff on Raw kind of seemed like closing the chapter of a few stories to give way to others, right? And I think, and it feels like that part of the, like, who's the tribal chief and all this, it feels like that's like kind of done, right? We put a nice little hat on it and we're good. We know. But it's how that dude right there reacts in the background. It's how Jacob Fatu reacts. It's how,
Tama Tonga takes it.
Tama Tonga takes it. So I think it was a fun match. Like I said, it did exactly what it needed to. It was a more definitive finish than I thought it was going to be. But as usual, I'm excited to see how we're carrying it forward.
Yeah. I didn't expect the ending. When it happened, Simon, were you in the same boat? Were you like, did you think it was going to go that way?
Yeah, I did. Only because I'd kind of had the same thought as Jake. I talked about this on Cheap Plug Ups and Downs last week.
Nice.
As soon as Solo Sikoa said to Paul Heyman, if Roman does win, I will acknowledge him. But of course that won't happen. I was like, okay, well, you're not winning, bro.
Yeah.
I thought, because exactly what Jake just said, I think it's time to shift things around. The best way to do that is for Solo to sort of, humble himself in front of now the real tribal chief. And Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu have been pitched as insane people since day one.
Yes.
So they can just, not only can they just go crazy, we know there's about 42 other Samoans waiting to come in to refresh the bloodline. So they can just bring 2 more of those in.
Yeah.
And we can continue on the production line until 2079, which, by the way, I have no problem with, because I've not seen one so far that's bad. So just keep them coming.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
I've got no issue. If you're that talented as professional wrestlers, why the hell wouldn't you? So that's what I think we should do. And also, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think Solo Sikoa has been so good the last 6 months. Maybe he took... Actually, you know what? I'm not going to say that. I think he has been good ever since WrestleMania 40. And a lot of the negativity that was being thrown at him, I'm going to say, is people not understanding his character. Because the whole point is he was meant to be like not confident. It was all
he's the kid walking in daddy's shoes.
That's it. And nobody seemed to get this. And I would have weekly meltdowns going, well, why would he do this? It's because he's terrified and he's scared.
Yes.
And he's been put in a position he didn't want to be in. So, he wasn't
ready for it.
It's like
the only way he knows how to handle it is violence. That's like it.
People forgot the day after the SmackDown after Mania when Solo was walking around with Jimmy and Paul, and they went into the room, and then Paul Heyman told Solo, you don't get to go in that room anymore because you're not, you're no longer in the, I forget what he said, like you're no longer at the top of the mountain, right? So ever since then, that was Solo's like driving force to be like, I can prove that I belong at the top of the mountain. That's literally, and then obviously everything kind of just broke down from there.
But there's also one other little thing that hasn't been addressed is I do remember Solo saying when he became tribal chief, that word came from above.
Yeah. The elders.
So who was that?
Yeah. Unless he was lying. Unless he was lying. And
he could have been.
He could have been lying.
Well, could have been.
Which I feel like sometimes they throw things and they're like, do we use it? Maybe we don't, and like Rock handing Cody whatever the hell he handed him, and we'll never know. But yeah, again, we'll see what happens with the bloodline.
Red one. The ultimate heel move.
The only ticket that was purchased by The Rock himself. Oh man. Okay. Did not watch that movie. So as the show progressed, we knew that one Jonathan Sinonius was going to show up, and that is exactly what happened. John Cena showed up. He cut the most John Cena promos. Also, a thing to note: all the shirts, each city he goes to will have a different shirt. So that blue and white is Dodger blue, which is pretty cool. I do not anticipate that he will have a Yankee themed outfit when he goes to New York as a Massachusetts guy, but he might have a Knicks outfit. That is a possibility, or a Mets outfit. It might have a Mets outfit. In any case, so John Cena announced that he's going to enter into the Royal Rumble. So guys, the question is, Matt, does John Cena win the Royal Rumble?
I mean, we literally have a segment called "Who's winning?"
Maybe we can save it for that, but I do think it's. You see, I don't think John Cena. I think it's going to be the Elimination Chamber for him, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah,
I mean, he's John Cena, man. He's always a threat.
Yeah,
like you know what I mean. Like that's a hell of a Cinderella story if you send him off sometime, but doesn't need to. But he's going to be a huge topic of discussion going into that. The attention is going to be on him.
Yeah.
So, knowing John as I've known him, he could use it to make somebody as well, you know, or a few people in that spot. But also it could just be a real happy final year, and this could be just that one last time around the merry-go-round.
So then the bigger question is, because he was talking about this, Simon, does he get number 17? Because they want to do it.
So as the nerd I am, I fantasy booked this, and a warning to everyone.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I got a graphic for that. You caught me off guard, man. Fantasy booking.
There you go. There we go. There you go. I know. Like, if this had happened 5 years ago, there would have been a meltdown on the internet. However, because John Cena has now reached that amazing echelon level that legends do, where they can do no wrong, and you can get away with it, I honestly think there's a reason he mentioned Elimination Chamber, Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank, because I think he will enter the Royal Rumble and he will fail. He will then enter the Elimination Chamber and win. He will then take on Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania and lose. Then he will also win Money in the Bank. I'm serious. And he will cash it in on a very special pay-per-view that he will invent for himself, because he's John Cena. in December, which will be his last ever match. You could do it against whoever. You just pick the right person.
WWE Hustle, Loyalty, and Respect. That will be the pay-per-view.
Just call it John Cena retires with the title. Just tell him, because you're not going to do anything else. And then I honestly think, because he's John Cena, and the way that, absolutely deserved too, the way that the WWE sees him, again, who else gets the honor of being called the greatest of all time on commentary? No one. That's that's very intentional. I genuinely think he says, I've got this briefcase. I'm calling my shot in December. Let's just say Gunther's a champion. I'm just making it up. So it's Gunther versus John Cena. He beats Gunther. He wins a championship. He retires with the title. Now, I get that's the opposite of the way that people usually go out, but I truly do think we've entered a new era where actually fans want to see the legends go out. Like Sting, right? Sting has kicked all this off because it was the greatest presentation of all time.
Still go.
Sting.
You know, as long as they can still go.
Yeah. Like if they don't overstay their welcome, I think, as like an older wrestler, I think that's where the fans kind of like, Hogan, for example, and prior to Taker, all the other stuff. Well, I mean, Taker was always like, the act was always great. So people always enjoyed the act, but I will say that the in-ring for sure. But Goldberg is an even better example of that. So I do agree with that. I actually think that because AEW showed that you can have a legend retire going up, it's okay. You just retire the belt. Or not retire the belt. You just vacate the belt. I mean, sorry. What is Abeyance has had the title how many times now? Right? What was the name of that damn Abeyance that Triple H used to say back in the day? Yeah, Jake, why you keep making that face?
I might have some fantasy booking as well.
Oh, snap, baby. We got another fantasy booking. Look at this graphic. This is gorgeous. Look at Big Bronson Reed. He's a son. He's the son in the background because he's going to be an atom bomb. Anyway, go for it.
I think what would be interesting, and we saw a little bit of this in John Cena's promo on Raw, is that this isn't the same John Cena, right? He's here for nostalgia. He's here, as a farewell, as a thank you to his fans, and a thank you to WWE. I think it'd be interesting. And he also mentioned that he has not won a match in 2,400 days.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to just see John Cena for a while fail. And for once really truly live up to his never give up attitude, right? He is this grizzled vet. He is the greatest of all time, but he's not a young man anymore. He still looks in incredible shape. But like, it's just, it's the can the old dude hang in there still, And I think it'd be interesting if he's discovering maybe I can't. Maybe I can't. But unlike these guys who have to be good every single night, every single week, John Cena's only got to be good once.
Yeah.
One more time.
I like that.
He's just got to be good once.
One last time.
And if he can find that in himself, basically just rip off the more recent Rocky movies. You know what I mean? Where it's like Rocky's fighting the younger guys. Oh, I still got it. I'm still I'm a fighter. I just want to fight. And that's all that John Cena is, right? He just wants to fight, but he doesn't have it like he used to. And it's him trying to rediscover that a little bit and find this, who is the current John Cena mixed with the old John Cena.
Yeah.
And then finally see him rise above it and finally get that title. That's a fun thing to do instead of just Cena wins because he's Cena.
And Cena wins, yeah.
That whole point and the whole
and he puts over a lot of people in the process.
That's exactly where I was going, because the whole idea of going out on your back, generally speaking, is to put over somebody on your way out, right? Somebody who needs that elevation. You could kind of subvert this process by doing, he spends 90% of the year giving people these dream matches, putting over Carmelo Hayes, putting over Cody, not that Cody needs it, but, putting over LA Knight, whoever it is, in high profile pay-per-view matches. And then one last press towards the end of the year to that point and finally wins that last big one, number 17, greatest of all time, and goes out on top. Having accomplished both in the opposite way, instead of winning all year and then losing and putting someone over at the end, he puts people over all year, goes on one last little run in the final month or two, and then wins it and retires. I think that could be a really great way of accomplishing both pieces of business.
And then next year's Royal Rumble could be for that title.
Nice.
Ooh.
And it's in Saudi Arabia, so
they like doing that stuff.
You're guaranteeing that people are going to tune in because you want to find out who is the next world champion.
Yeah, very good, dude.
Damn, dude.
God, we're good.
If this happens, if this happens, I swear, man, we got to get paid somehow. We got to get paid. I don't know who. Who do we talk to get paid?
Papa H.
Papa H. Goodness gracious. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on with the rest of this. So, another one that went the way that we expected, but went, I don't know. It was weird. It was Rhea and Liv for the Women's World Championship. This was a matchup that we've been waiting for God knows how long now, because they've been back and forth for months. And it's in a very similar Simon vein to what we were talking about before with Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax, where you kind of just like, okay, let's just get this done already. And that's basically what this felt like. Am I right?
Oh, you're totally right. You're spot on. And I'm glad that WWE did it that way. There was a rumor going around, and I, take it with a pinch of salt, that apparently at one point they were going to do this at WrestleMania. And it's good that they went, no, let's do this now. Because ultimately, we want Rhea Ripley as the champion. That's what WWE wanted last year, but very sadly, she got injured. And there has been a huge positive to that, because I think Liv Morgan had the best year of her career.
Yeah.
So as long as you've got plans for her after this, she's going to be in a great position. Rhea Ripley, I think, can become an even bigger star than she already is. Allowing her to win the championship on this show is the smartest thing in the world. I thought they had a fun match. I thought it kind of ticked the boxes. I don't think we tried to over egg the pudding, given that we knew we had a lot more stuff to get done and you don't want to sort of unbalance the show. I just thought it was very easy to watch. I think it was very fun. I think they relied on the story stuff. And again, I just think Rhea and Liv are great. So I just enjoyed it for what it was. I just think they didn't overthink it. And sometimes that's all I need. I do have to point out when I watch wrestling, I watch it 50% as me. And I watch it 50% as if this is a legit sporting competition. Okay. And everything is what we're seeing is actually happening. I was in tears when Rhea Ripley wins the championship. And within the crazy world that I created in my head, The Undertaker was just backstage on his motorcycle, riding around. And then he went, I should just drive out there and celebrate with this woman. At first, he ignored her because he wanted to do a little.
Yeah, I thought he snubbed her. I
was mad, bro. I was mad. I was like, what the hell is going on?
They're going to do the ships passing in the night, knocked up or something. And he just rode down the ramp. And I was like, what?
That was so funny.
And then obviously they did the big celebration thing, but it was, when you look at it like that, it was borderline nuts. However, I understand it. It's a very smart thing to do because you're just sending the message out there. This is one of our superstars, right? This is someone that we expect to get to, let's say, a John Cena level, to use someone we were just discussing. So it was just really smart wrestling. It was just, what do we want to do? Everything. Okay, let's do it. And again, I know Rhea Ripley is a massive star because I have people that know that I like wrestling, and they seems to be TikTok where people find her.
Instagram. She's huge on Instagram.
Yeah, she's the number one person of the new crop that I go, who's this Rhea Ripley? Who's this Rhea Ripley? So, man, if you've got that, you got to go all the way. And I'm glad they did. I thought it was just fun.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
It's her look, and she posts like a ton of fitness pics. And my friend Lorena, she's like a makeup artist, and she posts like her makeup stuff as well. So there's like a lot of things. And that kind of crossover appeals to a completely different demographic that three bald dudes and Jake can't, associate with. So I think that's where we want to speak for yourself. Okay, I'm so sorry, Jake.
I'm pretty plugged into the zeitgeist.
I didn't mean to insult your intelligence, my friend. But yeah, there's really not much else to add here. This was just straightforward. We'll see what happens moving forward with Rhea Ripley. So if it's cool with you guys, I want to move on in the interest of time to our next matchup, because we got Jay versus Drew, or Dre as their couple's name would be. This was another one where Matt, I genuinely thought Drew McIntyre was going to pick up the win, but it was going to be a little bit of a shady victory. But instead, it was really the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment. The surprise roll up got the dub. Matt, how do you feel about it?
It was fine. Good match. Both guys are awesome. Yeah. It was a good match.
I want to just talk about this shot real fast. If you're watching this on YouTube, you could see where my mouse is pointing at. This is on the official WWE website. Okay. The joint scene around the world. That was amazing. That was the best thing ever. I couldn't believe my eyes that this was happening. That was the best part of the matchup for me. And that is not to insult the match. I genuinely enjoyed the match. It's just that kind of like took the cake for me, and I was like, well, I guess at this point, whatever happens, just icing.
And that's my point. It was of all the spectacle, which good for them for being on the show, because there were 4 matches in 3 hours.
Yeah.
So like the fact that they were 1 of 4 is a great spot, but it felt like
that's crazy. 4 matches in 3 hours.
Yeah. But because of all those matches, like this one was just like, yep, all right, Drew is still mad. There was no like aftermath of any idea of like continuation. It was just like solid. Drew continues his path to hunt down the people who wronged him in the last few years. And
but what I liked about it though was that it showed Drew's trying to solve all his problems with brute force, and someone outsmarted him, and it took him by surprise. You could see the look in his face in there where he's like, well, I thought I was just going to beat the shit out of Jey Uso.
Yeah.
And to an extent I did, but Jay's ring awareness and where he is, I thought it was a really clever that he misses here we go right here, that he misses the Claymore. and lands in a spot where he can do that kind of that sliding pin. I thought that was a really clever way to give Jay that win and to have something over Drew.
Yeah.
And I think that Drew, maybe it could be a lesson Drew learns and he starts being a little more cerebral and a little less, ready, fire, aim.
That's actually a really good point, because in the Sammy match, he was very much like that. It was very like brutal, very straightforward. And in this match, he was doing the exact same thing, but this time got outsmarted. I do like that, that little nod there. So Simon, your take on this one, considering it was one of 4 matches in the card, did you feel like it was worthy of that spot?
Yeah, no, I don't think it was worthy of the spot, because I think on either end of the hero-villain spectrum, you have 2 people that this year should blow up. I mean, that Jey Uso entrance, I would argue, if someone said to me, Simon, 3 things to watch from that show, I say, well, you probably want to see the Jey Uso entrance.
Yeah.
Pretty special. Not only because Travis Scott had a blunt, which was, oh my gosh, I died. Especially when I had to recap it on ups and downs. What a sentence. Travis Scott came out with Jey Uso and a joint.
It's the best thing ever.
There you go.
And the old hardcore title.
Well, no, it was, I don't know if that was a I think it looked like the old Universal title, but like, because
Triple H gave it to him.
Oh, okay.
He gifted it to him. Yeah. A new version of it.
That's fascinating. Oh man. But yeah, Simon, I didn't mean to cut you off. What else were you going to say?
No, not at all. So I think it was good because, again, I think a lot of this show was to tell people these are, the people that we want you to focus on. I don't mind Jey Uso winning because Jey Uso never gets to win. He won the Intercontinental title and it got taken off him like 3 days later.
Yeah.
I will say that, it's my nerd brain. I couldn't get past it. I do think Drew McIntyre probably should have won with dastardly tactics, only because since he has come back following the Hell in the Cell, he has been the one guy on the show that actually comes across to me as like a danger. Like when he turns up, you're like, oh no, Drew McIntyre's going to kill someone.
Yeah.
And I think you could have eked that out a bit longer, but at the same time, you can retcon all of that on SmackDown. It's really not a problem at all. And going back to what you guys said earlier about the sort of making SmackDown the land of opportunity, I don't think they will do this, or maybe they'll do it with one of them. I would put Drew and Jay and Sammy. I'd put them all on SmackDown and say, go wild, guys, because these are people that have done such good work over the last few years. If you sort of allow them to prop up the entire show, my gosh, I think it could be incredible. I actually think that Drew McIntyre should somehow get his hands on a championship and be the dominant champion on SmackDown for a large period of this year. Yeah. If there's a way to do that, because it's such a packed scene. So I think it's one of those cool matches where you can pick your winner and argue it both ways. And I don't think we get that enough in wrestling because sadly somebody wins and somebody loses, then they're buried and it's the end of the world. Yeah. As opposed to trying to look at it as a story/sporting contest and go, oh, well, what does this open up? So, no, I liked it a lot. I do think the crowd tired themselves out on Jey Uso's entrance, though. They were so tired and quiet. I don't think they weren't interested. I just think they were like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have cheered so much.
They're like, we eated so much and now we got to watch? What the hell? Oh, this is too much. Yeah. This is too much. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So wonderful.
Jey Uso over as hell. So happy for the guy. But yeah, it was, we'll see where things go. And I totally agree with that. Let those guys be the foundation of SmackDown. And you got yourself something really, really fascinating building up. But that takes us to our main event. We're just going to skip past Hulk Hogan because that's what everyone in the venue did. Over to our main event, Seth Rollins versus CM Punkius for nothing, for honor, for pride, for glory. This one went into it with a ton of drama. This was like, an old Twitter feud from like 2018, 2017 or some shit like that. But we finally got the matchup. And look, I think as a straight up singles matchup, Punk put on one hell of a show. I've been a little critical of Punk, over the course of the last year or so. But this was a great matchup. I enjoyed this top to bottom. It was fun. Good storytelling told in the ring throughout it. Also, the finish was, did you guys notice the finish was a mirror of the Punk Mox finish from AEW? It was like a mirror finish, literally the same exact thing. Simon, when that happens, is that, in your opinion, do you view that as a cool nod? Do you view it as Like, oh, he's taking out all the Shield guys with the same thing. Like, is that how that is, or are we just reading too much into it?
Oh, I think it's a good thing. I think it's exactly that. I think it's two people that understand what wrestling is in 2024-5 and what you can get away with, because you can do that finish. And if you're just a WWE guy, you just enjoy the finish. Whereas if you are a nerd, for lack of a better term, like you and I, we can enjoy it for exactly that. And listen, we're going to get to CM Punk versus Roman Reigns eventually. You can do the finish again and Roman Reigns can probably kick out. And then we can all talk about that till the cows come home too. I loved this for the very specific reason, because again, it was all the story, it was all the drama, but the WWE main event style, as you already talked about, man, is tribal combat. Because we'd already had tribal combat, it meant we got to have a main event that was way grittier and way edgier.
It's
and
a flat out match. Yeah,
exactly. And I just think WWE doing that is just makes things more fun. It shakes up the card. I love the fact that we got a definitive winner and loser, because again, now you're like, well, what the hell does Seth Rollins do now? That's actually more interesting than winning.
Yes.
Is he going to go crazy? Is he going to join up with Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre? They can become the Truth Brigade and just walk around going, no one listens to us. So, yeah, I think both of these guys I just think they're great. And I watched it, and I just like, this is what wrestling should be within what we've contained here. Again, wrestling should be everything. I think they nailed it. I think they absolutely smashed it.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, in a week where we were just been blessed with some god tier wrestling, it's still great that you can end up with something like this on a main event on WWE programming, when years ago that was like not necessarily the case, Jake. But to Simon's point, and I want to kind of pick your brain on this one, Jake, real fast. It is more interesting that Seth Rollins lost. So what becomes of our architect, our visionary, our revolutionary, if you will?
I mean, this cannot stand. I mean, as far as Seth Rollins go, this cannot stand. I mean, it was shockingly like definitive and decisive, that win by CM Punk. And I like Simon's idea of I mean, we have seen some interaction between Drew and Kevin Owens and Seth, and to see them like partner up to be like, are we the only sane people here?
Yeah.
Are we the only people here who have a memory, who recall how all of these people acted and how all of them screwed everyone over for their own benefit? How can we be the only people that are seeing this? And to see them, form some sort of alliance or stable, whatever it becomes, I think would be really fascinating. But especially because Drew lost his 2 out of 3 against Punk. So he might be interested in helping out Seth. And we saw Kevin. We didn't even talk about Kevin getting involved in tribal combat, which genuinely surprised me.
Yeah, that was a surprising one.
So I don't know where we're going from here necessarily, but I just see Seth Rollins digging this deeper, darker hole and falling into the similar pitfalls that Drew did. And I think that could be very fascinating.
CM Punk makes people go crazy.
But not seeing this like we saw with Seth before, where he's the, happy, almost Joker-esque, but very homicidal almost.
I just want to say real fast, think about CM Punk and the amount of the feuds he's had and the after effects of everyone that he's been in a feud with, right? Hangman went crazy. MJF, he was crazy, but then became good, which for a bad guy can also be a little crazy. You know what I'm saying? Jack Perry, he was calling himself Jungle Boy. And now the man's driving a minivan and looks rather suspicious, and you wouldn't want him to be near school children in a park, right? He went crazy. Drew McIntyre went crazy. He didn't even touch him. He was already crazy. Look at this. This is nuts. CM Punk driving the world insane. Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in this narrative. I like this story. This is going to be good. Does Punk though, Matt, go for gold in this run? Do we see him as champion?
In 2025, 100%.
Maybe before Mania? Do you see him get gold before Mania?
No.
No.
Mania, I think, will be the earliest. I know that's been a big thing for CM Punk on a personal level, is to have that real WrestleMania title main event. Whether that's this year or not, I don't think it has to be this year, but it very well could be. But I think at some point this year, he's been back a little over a year now, hasn't competed for gold properly yet. I don't remember if there was even like a contenders match or anything in there. I don't think so. But so I think that happens at some point. And I do think this is definitely a heel turn pivot for Seth Rollins in the short-term future after this. Also, for me, my contribution to this conversation is going to be shout out to, of course, I mean, the GOAT, Michael Cole, but did a great job of not only just as business as a wrestling company, but knowing that this is a launching pad. This is an onboarding for a lot of new people.
Yeah.
And so laying out when Kevin came out, and he didn't jump on it, he didn't run it, but he gave it a beat. And it's like, well, yeah, Kevin, for years, the bloodline was beating down Kevin Owens, and he has been furious with Roman Reigns. That's the reason he beat up Cody, because he dared to tag with Roman Reigns. And then setting the table with Seth and Punk, going back to he laid out the stuff, the long pass outside of WWE. NXT, even that brief appearance Punk did in NXT where they tag team, brought that back to the forefront, just letting you know the history. If you're just tuning in, here's a couple of tidbits. So to shout out to Cole and the commentary, he really did a great job of setting all that up.
Yeah.
And I actually saw a clip of him talking about that on McAfee's show, where he was like, this is our job as commentators, is we're going to have a lot of people here who have never watched before, who are lapsed viewers, who maybe haven't been around since Attitude Era. And it's our job to tell them why these people are important to our story.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, he's the best. I mean,
he really is. He's the GOAT.
He's so good.
So me and Scan were doing like a watch along last night on my channel, and we were talking about exactly that, because he was saying like, wow, you could tell they're really trying to focus in on like, dumbing down the commentary. I was like, no, actually they're educating a brand new audience. Like that's the intention, because when we do VCT for Valorant and we go to Champions, we always say, like, hey, this is our biggest event of the year. This is when we're going to have like 200, 300,000, maybe more, right? Millions, around the world that watch. They're going to be reintroduced to these players for the first time. They don't know who the hell they are. So it's our job to educate the audience on who these people are. Like that's our job. It's not to have the deepest knowledge. It's not to make sure you call it an Uranagi every single time. It's, you want to make sure that you are remembering what is the core of what you're trying to do, which is storytelling. And
while also not insulting the intelligence of the fans that are watching.
That is very true. That is very true. It's a balance. It's a balance, but it's one that, good commentators can do easily. It's not that difficult, because ultimately you're going to be speaking the same lingo, the same language, no matter what. You're just going to execute it in a different way, for the sake of that show. And they're going to be doing that for a while, because they have access to a whole new audience now. So I think you can expect that to be the case. But again, if you want that hardcore commentary, there are plenty of options for it, which I am going to give a shout out to a friend of the pod, Tom Hannafan, and also a friend of the pod, Matt Raywald. Those two guys, they're the happy medium of doing the the storytelling, the kind of covering all the bases while at the same time just being absolute nerds. So
Tom tries. I don't, but Tom tries very hard and is good. And I get drugged by the tail through that mess. So.
All right. Well, that takes us to our next segment, because as you guys might not know, we're going to be splitting up these shows, right? If you haven't been aware of that. So Rebooked 24/7 champion will be on the AEW episode. This time around, it's going to be who's winning the Royal Rumble? Of course, is where we predict.
It's going to be what? You're muted now, GB.
Oh, no.
Oh, I'm muted. Whoopsie. It's this.
This is awesome.
Wait, did you not hear the graphic? Did you not hear the echo?
We didn't hear.
No, we didn't hear anything.
Oh, no. We'll do it again. I have no problem. It's the Royal Rumble. Okay, there we go. We did it right the second time or the third time. It doesn't matter. Point is, this is where we predict for the last few weeks who wins the Royal Rumble. Simon, who do you think is going to win the men's and women's Royal Rumble this week?
So for the men's, I'm going to give you two. I'm going to give you a real one, and I have to give you my joke one. Otherwise, people that like my content will get mad at me.
Okay.
I do. I don't do it sometimes, and I get yelled at. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize this had become such a thing. So my serious one is I do actually think CM Punk is going to win the Rumble. I really do. I think, especially with The Rock being like, oh, I'm not doing WrestleMania, which is how I took what he did last night. I may be completely wrong, but that's certainly the impression I got. I think it opens the door. I think CM Punk has the main event, given his story and his status in the company. I think it would be mad not to. If The Rock is in play, I get it. It's The Rock. That changes the status quo. I think CM Punk right now is one of the most important people that they have. I mean, he just is. He's an anomaly. But I do think CM Punk will win. However, somebody knocked on my door and said, Simon, would you like to book the Royal Rumble? There's no repercussions whatsoever. Obviously, I'm going to book Repo Man. And, you know, that I still live for the day where one day I somehow manifest this into existence. So why not at the Royal Rumble? Let's face it, over the last few years, not great, the surprises, a little bit on the low side. So in 2025, let's bring back people that I would imagine 95% of the audience will go, who the hell is that?
Yes.
But I will be having a great time.
Yes.
So let's go Repo Man 25.
All right, and for your women, who's your women's choice?
Oh, yes, of course. So I think this is super hard. I think it depends who's actually coming back and when. Because I think if Becky Lynch is back soon, she could win the Royal Rumble. I think Charlotte Flair is back soon. She can absolutely win the Royal Rumble. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to pull an absolute fast one. I know she's won it before, but I would like Bianca Belair to win the Royal Rumble because I think we should properly try and take the tag team title belt off her. I feel like she's done the job that she was given to do, which was help Jade Cargill and help those championships, which she did do.
Yeah.
Then I watch her have singles matches, and I'm like, man, we wasted her, dude.
She's still one of the GOATs, man, for real.
She's so good. She has to be back in the championship mix. And the best way, just go, we've done it, is allow her to win the Royal Rumble. And I just think that's what I would do. I would get her into that main event scene as soon as I possibly can. I actually think it's probably somewhat of an outside shot at the moment, because if you do have a Charlotte and a Becky, and there's probably some other people that I'm not thinking of right now, I think
Alexa
it makes
Bliss.
it really tough.
Yeah,
absolutely right. I think it makes it really tough. But again, we're talking about manifesting. I'd love to see Bianca Belair win it because again, she's the best babyface they have. Well, her and Cody, but she is right up there, man.
Yeah.
She's just wonderful. So,
she definitely is. Okay, all right. Well, it's time. We heard from Simon. Now it's time to see from the rest of the team. Oh dear. Here we go. So this time around, we got Matt picking Hulk Hogan and Piper Niven. Jake picked Kevin Owens and Charlotte, and then I picked John Cena and CM Punk for the women's. I can explain. I can explain.
Introducing chaos to this.
I can explain. Here's how it's going to happen. All right. First things first. John Cena's winning the Royal Rumble. He already said it, guys. So it's going to happen. Okay. Super Cena. He doesn't lose. All right. Lil Cena wins. Come on, guys. It's a meme. All right. But then women's Rumble, right? CM Punk has a favor from Roman Reigns that he needs to cash in. Now everyone thinks this. Hold on a second. What did we learn? On this episode of Monday Night Raw? Is that The Rock is back in his role as a board member. So CM Punk is going to use his favor to tell Roman to tell Rock to give him the win for the Women's Rumble so that this way he could main event WrestleMania, and that's how he does it.
I'm in.
Book it.
Do it.
Book it.
All
Book
right.
it. All right.
Your Hogan pick is more realistic, to be quite honest.
Let's, Jake, go ahead. So just so you know, Simon, I don't know if you could tell here, but our dear friend Jake has
Kevin
been
Owens.
Quite
it's also
outside of the one time he went with Bronson Reed. Kevin Owens every time. Go for it, Jake.
I just think maybe it's manifesting, but I still think that Kevin Owens could win this whole thing. I think he could lose the match at Royal Rumble to Cody, and in comes a pissed off Kevin Owens ready to just beat the shit out of anybody who's in there, and he doesn't care how he has to do it, and get his moment. Because listen, he's been one of my favorites since he was introduced. I could also see some sort of moment between him and Cena in the Rumble to harken back to that U.S. Championship challenge when he was first introduced. I would love to see Kevin Owens win, and I still think I've stuck with this for so long. I'm going to keep riding it. I'm going to keep riding it out.
That's perfectly fine.
I think it's Kevin Owens. I'm going to still go with Kevin Owens.
And Charlotte, because that's actually
Charlotte because Rhea won. Because Rhea won last night. I think that they want to see another Rhea and Charlotte matchup at Mania, and so that's why I changed it to Charlotte.
Yeah, Matt, you look like you wanted to jump in real fast.
Well, it's just I think that's a really just solid prediction, because if you think about it, we had a lot of people will say we had that match, but it was 2020. Right during the pandemic,
and they were different wrestlers.
It was also Rhea before Rhea was really found herself.
She was pretty green. I mean, I say green, but she was pretty new to being up on the main roster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now she's really come into her own and having a returning Charlotte Flair,
whole another level.
Yeah. It's very true. It's very true. All right, well, Matt. Let's first start with the real one, Piper Niven. I like that pick, by the way. That's a real one to me. I think that could happen.
Solely because I don't think this will really, really happen, but I think a fun thing with the introduction of the women's mid-card titles.
Mm-hmm.
You could say, again, nobody would do this, but given the length of time Piper and Chelsea have been together, and to really put some importance on that U.S. title, use that Royal Rumble win to cash in on a U.S. title shot at like a WrestleMania. The classic partner turns on their, the person who's been using them as a lackey. It puts a big spotlight. Again, is it logical that anybody winning a Rumble would not cash in for a world title match?
Yeah.
No, but if stuff had gotten emotionally charged enough, maybe you could see in the weeks leading out, in the next several weeks, you could maybe. But so that's my outside pick that I think would be a fun story to use the Rumble to add spotlight to one of those new titles.
That's fair.
Now,
well, let's talk about that.
I think it's clear. No. Shut up. Just shut up. Look, last night proved something, and I think it reinforced something that WWE, they already learned this last year with The Rock, with the pivot. A beloved household name can become the greatest heel in WrestleMania.
He can't even walk, man. Did you not see him?
I mean, this makes the pivot look like a pebble.
He was walking like this. He was like this. He was like trying to get to the thing.
Hey,
he was only there because he heard January 6th and said, "Say no more, fam."
You only got to lay on your back. Why is my mic doing this?
You only have to lay on your back for 3 seconds.
3 seconds to put someone over.
That's what nope, never mind.
Some young whippersnapper gets a WrestleMania win over Hulk Hogan. I'm just saying, pivot round 2.
Carmelo Hayes. It should be Carmelo Hayes, one way or another.
It's The Rock again.
Or it's The Rock again.
The Rock Hogan 2.
And once again, it's all called on the fly.
Oh boy. All right, guys. Well, we're going to call it here. This one went long. We just keep messing this up. Shocker. But don't worry. We promise we'll get it under an hour soon. There was a lot to talk about, but in any case, wild scenes in WWE. We'll, of course, see what happens on Smackdown this week. Do we have any matches confirmed? Have WWE announced any matches?
Shinsuke Nakamura, LA Knight, US Championship for SmackDown.
And next week on Monday Night Raw, little Chad Gable decided he wanted to challenge a luchador. Oh, gee, I wonder who that could be. That's going to be awesome. It's going to be great to say Cero Miedo in front of like thousands of people. I hope people love Penta, because saying Cero Miedo is like the coolest thing ever. Anyway. All right, guys. Well, that is going to do it. Make sure you like, you subscribe, you check us out across all the different social media platforms that exist, because there's way too many of them these days. And a massive thank you to Simon for joining us for the opening of 2025 Rebooked. Thank you so much for that, my friend. And we, of course, will... Simon, where can people catch you, by the way? Where can people find you if they don't know already?
Very depressingly, Simon of 316 would not have had that as my name 10 years ago if I had known what the future held for me. Whoops, that was a mistake. Otherwise, if you just search for my normal name on most social media platforms or YouTube, you will find me. And any kind of subscription would be awesome. I appreciate it.
Awesome stuff. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much once again for watching. Make sure you tune into our AEW episode that is going to be coming out tomorrow. So, you can go ahead. If you love AEW, go listen to that. You love WWE, listen to that. We encourage you to listen to everything, because on this show, we love all pro wrestling. We'll catch you guys next time. Take it easy. Peace.